Welcome to our first episode of 2026. Today, we're going to talk about something that's been popping up in discussions with friends everywhere and making headlines: GLP-1 medications. If you've been wondering whether Ozempic, or as a friend likes to call it, vitamin O, Wegovy, or other GLP-1 treatments are right for you, today's episode is going to give you the real story from a medical expert who's been in the trenches with thousands of women just like us. I'm Betty Wang, host of Betty's Smart Friends. I'm a certified financial planner who helps women be more empowered and feel less alone in their financial lives. I'm so thrilled to introduce Dr. Angela Tran, and trust me, this woman gets it. She's double board certified in internal medicine and obesity medicine, and here's what makes her perfect for our audience. She's transformed over 5,000 patients at her MedFit medical weight loss clinic in Denver. She's in her 40s and faced her own metabolism challenges after gaining 40 pounds during her pregnancy. She's successfully reached her ideal weight using her own proven methods. Known as America's transformational weight loss doctor, she takes a comprehensive, medically supervised approach. But what I love most about Dr. Tran is that she practices what she preaches. She's a busy professional mom who models healthy living for her patients because she believes in leading by example. So settle in, because we're about to get expert insights you need to know to make informed decisions about your health journey. So thank you, Dr. Tran, for joining us today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much. Let's get right to it.
Well, could you share with the audience a little bit about, you shared before with me offline that you were in internal medicine before. What led you to specialize in weight loss?
You know what? Let's just get right to it. I feel very fortunate. I'm one of the OGs of the housewives of Ozempic. That's really what I tell. Fast forward to 2025. Hey, guess what? Weight loss clinics, med spas, online clinics popping left and right, brand new. One of the few. I started back in 2012, and I tell people I lived and helped women and men lose weight without GLP-1s for years. And so now look how dangerous I am. And, and really the topic here, especially for your listeners, is just like, we're not here to, pop up and quote research studies, and all those are important. Let's talk about the real stuff. And I want to kick off this sort of recording is just that addressing this success story that I have, of a patient who's lost over 50 pounds in less than 6 months. That's my average.
Wow.
And she confessed, look, Dr. Tran, it took me probably 4 months to call you.
Yeah.
My coworker nudged me, and she was a success story, and I knew that it, worked for her, but she said something very important that I want the listeners to lean in on. She said, Dr. Tran, how do you tell another successful woman that you're failing in your weight? That was it. We are be it all, do it all, and how do you admit to even yourself that you're successful in everything else, but makes you want to cry that why can't I get it together? And so this is really a real talk about having courage. No, you're not broken. You're talking to someone who's living it, not only teaching it. And let's really get to the root problem. And guess what? It has nothing to do with food and exercise. It is the weight that you carry emotionally. But the cool part about it is I can use the medical mechanics and take advantage of my gajillion years of medical training to fast forward to the life that you really deserve to be living, but you just have not been able to get there yet. And after this episode, I want you there.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great place to start, because it is. We feel like we've tried everything, we've done everything that we're told to do. We know that hormones affect us. We exercise, but nothing seems to work. And you're right. Talking about some sort of magic pill sounds too good to be true. And it also sounds dangerous, right? We don't know. And that's why I think you're so unique in that you have this medical background that you can speak to it. And you also have the lived experience, right?
Yeah. We've been trained by what we just know, right? Guess what? In our 20s, we decided to just eat less and it actually worked. And then fast forward into your 30s where all of the quote fun fad diets came in, intermittent fasting, keto, whole 30. I love the cabbage soup diet. We've all done it, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? It actually worked too because internet, your neighbor, your girlfriend said it worked and we did it. And now congratulations, now you're 40 and you can't get out of bed. And you're still cutting calories, doing cleanses. But here's the problem. Then you go to your doctor and the doctor says, well, why don't you try harder?
Yeah. It's just about eating less, right?
Yes. And then you're scratching your head. I could not eat any less, and I'm literally killing myself at the gym. And so now, fast forward to this decade, we are getting sort of dismissed, or telling ourselves, like, what is wrong with me? Yeah, maybe the doctor's right. Maybe I should be working harder. And everybody knows that we could not work any harder because we're women. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, through my own personal journey of like the original question, why did you get into this? And I'm like, well, I was probably going to die if I didn't. What I mean by that is I was so burnt out by being a doctor, chasing the next prescription, answering phone calls, emails, literally going home only to know that I had to chart for a couple hours before I go to bed. And that was it. I, you know, literally could not live any longer. And I hope this resonates with a lot of women out there because we spend our entire lives getting to this career that looks like, oh my gosh, she has it all, only to find out this was exactly the opposite that I signed up for. But the cool part about it is that one thing led to another and I am just a more meaningful doctor today.
Was there one thing that was assigned to you or that changed like that? Because I think sometimes as women, we're like, okay, we'll just tough it out a little bit
Mhm.
longer, or if we could just get to this milestone, then we'll decide. But that just keeps pushing it out. I feel like sometimes when there's major change, unfortunately, something's happened.
Yes, funny that you say that. So if you live in Colorado, it's I-25. That was it. It was
Who knew? Highways could do
yes,
that.
25, 30 p.m. driving home from work and thinking to myself, stuck in bumper to bumper traffic, if I had a child waiting for me at home. And just started crying at the steering wheel. And, I didn't have children and I wasn't married at the time, but, I had a boyfriend who is now my husband and we were taking those steps, and, I just realized that I'm not a doctor. I want to be a mom. And I want to be somebody, but I didn't know what that meant. But driving home at 8:30 at night, I was like, what kind of mom am I? Like I wasn't even having a child, but I already sort of almost punished myself for it. That honestly was sort of the trigger. I had multiple headaches. I couldn't sleep, couldn't get up. Didn't matter whether I had a light schedule or a heavy schedule. I remember hugging, my boyfriend, now my husband, is just like, I can't do this. And, he would just hold me close and just, put your head to work like everybody else and, we'll get through this. But there was really no out at the time until I realized I am the out. And what does that mean? And I didn't know until I let sort of the universe say, you don't belong on this path. So, you know, let go, surrender, and then I'll show you what's next.
Yeah, it's really brave and scary to do that.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then what led you to the weight loss piece of it?
Yes. So,
Or did you stop practicing
yeah,
medicine completely?
I actually randomly ran into a doctor who actually helps burnt out doctors. That
Oh,
was
okay.
really sort of kind of like okay, cool, great, sign me up.
Well,
Volunteer.
that's sort of
You know,
sad that there's somebody
um,
that this is their job.
yes, yes.
So it
But
must
the
be a
thing
known
about
issue.
Yeah, and the reality was it was sort of like, okay, well, here are other means to make money and income, which is your space. We all want to get multiple streams of income. We don't want to be dependent on one paycheck, right? And so I went to his workshop. But believe it or not, I was like, I don't know how to invest. I have no clue about stocks. I don't even know the first thing about running a business. It was the very doctor science. I'm gonna throw in the Asian kid in me, to just do the straight path. And so after the workshop, he literally just pulled me aside to say, you remind me of one of my friends. I'm gonna connect you with her. She does weight loss. I don't know, just call her, connect. And sure enough, we got on the phone. She said, Angela, I actually love what I do. And I said, really? Who does that?
Yeah.
Actually loves their job. And I just leaned in and she said, Legit, this is what's happening. We're helping people lose weight. We're getting them off their medications. They're super happy. But as a doctor, we get to step it up. We're not like the personal trainer, nutritionist, like eat right, exercise. No, we got science and medicine and really addressing the root. And I kid you not, something lit me up to the point where, like, okay, I took the whole year while I still had my day job and started learning how to start a business by myself. And fast forward to 2012, which is this pivotal year. That was when I left my job, started a business, and got married all within months of each other. I don't
Why
recommend
not? Yeah. Why not?
it.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that experience is, I mean, and share a little bit about your process for clients? I mean, because as you said, when you first started, there was, I would assume, no GLP-1s for people to use. So, I'd love to hear the evolution, or if you could share with our listeners what your original process for clients were, and then kind of how it's changed over the years.
Yeah. Well, the cool part about it is ignorance is bliss. I was so ignorant, I didn't even know. And I tell people, because we tend to get into our heads and say, "Oh, you can't do this and can't do that." I was the exact opposite. I'm completely clueless. Let's figure this out. That really was sort of the fuel. Here in Denver, there is a great program called the Denver Small Business Development Center, and they provide mentorship for people like me. And I'm like, cool, sign me up. So I got to be matched with a counselor. She legit looked at me and I'm like, why are you here? Honestly. And we're actually great friends today because she literally just like, I don't even know why you're here and you're not going to make it kind of thing.
But we'll
She
talk
started,
because you're nice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But she set up a LLC, helped me figure that out, just the logistics. And then it's so funny. I was seeing patient to patient back to back, would run to my corner office, set up my next call with her and go downtown. And what do we need to do next in terms of like marketing and sales? And we sort of kind of got the foundations. And then the famous words from Tony Robinson, you gotta be Tony Robbins, you gotta be resourceful. So I just started to kind of like look at different companies and what are they doing. And I matched with, at the time, this company that offers medical meal replacements, which is a nice alternative to surgery. But it was more of like a turnkey solution, So I got matched with a business representative. We're still great friends today. And again, the basics. And then open doors, in September 2012. And I was just super happy to just finally jump into something. I'll be honest with you, it was reckless and clueless, but I'm just like this giddy. I feel free. But then I figured it along the way, and then finally I got smart by hiring actual business coaches. That was really then what really led me into, what I'm doing today.
And what about the programs, the weight loss programs that you were creating? Like, how did that start? What did that look like? And how did that change over the years?
Yeah, the framework is honestly still the traditional what I use today. Number one, blood work. Do not pass go and collect $200 until you guys get blood work. If you take anything away from this episode, that is it. Write it down.
Well, I've heard, and I'm sure women everywhere have heard such different um, viewpoints on that, right?
Mhm.
We've had doctors say that that's kind of a waste of money. It's great to do. It's more information, but sometimes it doesn't really tell you much. What are the labs, if you're
Yeah,
able to share that,
yes,
that are
yes,
important and
yes,
why?
yes.
Kind of like the why, because
Yep, yep.
for those of us who aren't medically inclined, we hear these words and it sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher, wow, wow,
Uh-huh.
wow.
Sure, sure.
What are the important labs to get?
Yes, you are correct. It is a waste of money to spend thousands of dollars on 50 pages. Okay. So guess what? The blood work that you get is the blood work that every single doctor that checks once a year.
Oh, okay.
That's really it. So it actually can be free through your insurance or, cash pay offices where they have lower pricing. Okay. But if you're spending thousands of dollars, absolutely, it's a waste. Okay. Here is really the core. And obviously, I do comprehensive labs, and honestly, it is not that much more deviation from a primary care doctor. But if you were to check anything, your thyroid,
Mm-hmm.
which is a TSH level, that stands for thyroid stimulating hormone, again, routine panel. Okay. Number two, your fasting cholesterol. We really need to know that. Okay, and believe it or not, it actually needs to be in the metabolic category. And then finally, number three, hemoglobin A1C. People might be familiar with the, traditional medication or lab work that just measures an average of your blood sugars over a span of 3 months. Now, given, yes, I do a little bit more than that, but if you just literally walk into your doctor's office, done. And if your doctor doesn't order that, then get another doctor. Okay, but here's the cool part about it. It's not just the numbers that you get. Believe it or not, hemoglobin A1C, your thyroid, and your cholesterol are all part of the endocrine system. And I always say if one ducks out of the row, the other one is too. They are all actually interrelated and they're not separate. Now, I do have a lot of women who ask, well, Dr. Tran, what about hormone panels, for females? I do have the opportunity to check that. That's actually in an individualized case. I'm not going to necessarily order hormones just in every female because guess what? The real hormone that is the problem is insulin and not your estrogen kind of thing. So I just treat my patients like girlfriends. Look, you don't need any of that stuff, but you also need to know an interpreter who can actually give you explanation, not just whether it's normal or not. So that's my spiel on labs.
What are you looking for? So, I have
Mhm.
more experience with insulin and A1s. Just I have a type 1 diabetic. So
Oh, yeah,
these
exactly.
words are
Hmm.
normal to me, but I can't imagine, and I have a thyroid condition myself. Um, so these labs are normal, but I don't know that they're normal for other people. Can you explain maybe what the thyroid does and how insulin works and why it's important? And kind of what you're looking for when you're looking at the lab. Sorry, that's a lot of questions.
You're fortunate. You're fortunate that that's actually a normal language in your household. I tell people, gosh, I feel those who don't have anybody medical in their family. Good luck to you. Healthcare stinks. I was fortunate that we grew up in a medical family, so it was just normal. So let's just break it down. So, the thyroid, I call it the Wizard of Oz. It just controls everything. Congratulations. If it's on, it's on. If it's off, it is way off. We don't even know what the Wizard of Oz looks like, It's just a gland that sits in your neck. But believe it or not, number one, it does have a primary handle on your metabolism. So that's really important for you to know. Of all the things, if you just got one piece, that's it. Okay, whether you have the gas pedal on or the brake system. Okay, and so it dictates your metabolism. It also can contribute to even the simplicity of digestion. If your thyroid is slow, hey, guess what? You're going to be a little bit more on the constipation side, or if it's opposite, you might have other digestive issues. It controls your mood. This is really what I love because I have women who say, "Gosh, Dr. Tran, I'm just so moody and I feel like I'm having a hot flash. Am I going to perimenopause?" And I'm like, Wait, it might not actually be estrogen, and it might be your thyroid. I have a lot of women, and it's like, gosh, why am I in a mood? Why do I just feel sad, but I don't even have a reason for it? And I said, whoa, don't blame it on your stress just yet. We got to look at the mechanics. So, and then thyroid can even affect your sleep, your energy level. My goodness, the simplicity of just looking at that can be life-changing. Okay. The second thing you asked is like, okay, hemoglobin A1C and its relationship to insulin. This is what, fast forward to GLP-1s. This is why GLP-1s exist. Okay. So when we call out a hormone, this is the one to blame. So insulin is supposed to be, yes, regulating your blood sugar, turning that to energy, but it starts to get lazy, especially as we get older. We're stressed out, we don't sleep well, we don't eat right, we don't exercise. We have family members who have diabetes. Our family gene line is just messed up. Okay. And so the insulin starts to store everything. And I have lots of females who say, Dr. Tran, I'm not even hungry in the morning. In fact, I ate like probably 800 calories today. Why did I gain 3 pounds? And that is an insulin problem, believe it or not. So it's all chemistry. And then again, cholesterol is just all related to that. Are you storing more cholesterol? So to answer your other question, it's not so much the number itself. I like to look at trends. So here's a good example of the typical female who goes to the doctor's office and says, hey doc, I don't feel well. My hair is thinning. I'm moody all the time. I'm tired. I can't sleep. I'm gaining weight. What gives? The doctor says, oh, don't worry, Betty, your labs are normal. I'll
Right.
see you
It's
next
within
year.
range, right?
And you're just like, you just want to die when you get home. Okay. Trends. I have had patients not only bring me lab work, but their previous historical lab work. So guess what? Hey, you're normal, but you're about to be abnormal. We have to address that. And the problem is that, hey, guess what? If it's abnormal, it might actually be too late. And doctors don't recognize the trends. And that's where I come in and it's like, whoa. Okay, good news, you don't have diabetes, but you almost have it. What happened? What happened 2 years ago? Like, well, I didn't go to the doctor because I didn't feel comfortable and they told me I was normal and blah, blah, blah. And, just time flies by, right? But the cool part about it is that you just need someone to have a little bit more of a microscope. And just because it's normal or abnormal, no, you want to know the story. And that's really sort of what I want to teach my patients. And literally, you don't have to go to a fancy medical practice. You can go to your primary care doctor and get these things. You just have to go to me to help you interpret it. That's all.
You're the translator.
Yes.
So somebody comes to your office, they bring their labs. How do you decide whether to work with them or not? What does that look like from that experience? Let's say their thyroid is okay, but you're seeing trends in there. I mean, what are you looking for before you decide to say, I think you need GLP-1s? And what does that process look like?
Yeah, very good. We take one step back and I say, are you even in it to win it? Why do you even want to lose weight? So my radar does go up. It's like, well, I just want to, feel better. And, I've got a wedding to go to and my family reunion, and though these are all very good reasons, don't get me wrong. But I really love to work with women who are like, I'm done and I want to be healthy. I can't live like this anymore. And there's just like this intrinsic feeling that they're ready to change from a deeper level than just surface. So, because that, as you guys know, GLP-1s are only a piece of the puzzle. If you do not fix all the other factors, not just diet and exercise, mindset, behavior, yes, you are going to have a problem getting off if you don't know the right habits, things like that. So number one, we really need to just kind of say, what is your motivators, honestly? I do, because I've been doing this for years, I do typically attract naturally women in my age group, so 40s and 50s. I get some young ones also, and I'll take them on. But I love, love, love my 40s and 50s just because we're a tribe in itself.
Yeah.
So we get it. So the typical full-time, married, kids, can't eat, can't keep our head straight, can't sleep, rinse and repeat. But then we start to take to the next steps metabolically. Okay, yeah, we're 40. Guess what? Things go awry. Again, I gained 40 pounds with my pregnancy. I was considered an older mom. All of you guys know that you get an elderly mom ICD-10 diagnosis.
After
Congratulations.
30, yeah.
Yes. And you get to actually not only see your OB, but you also have to see a specialist frequently because you have time for that and you're considered high risk. I had gestational diabetes, loved it, sat in my doctor's office for a half a day drinking junky stuff every hour for 3 hours. It was
That
awful.
orange drink, right?
Yes. And I can't even like drink that fast, but I didn't even realize that that was the trick. You have to drink it fast. I was like drinking slow, but I was nauseated 24/7 through my first trimester. You girls know who you are. I would call my mom and I said, I'm out of wheat thins. Can you stop by the grocery store? I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna make it to my next patient. Wheat thins was like my savior. I don't know what it was.
Mine
Um,
was Ricola drops. Those
okay.
little, I
Oh
don't know.
my
I don't know
goodness.
why.
Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah.
idea why.
Yeah. And then of course I'm small, so breastfeeding did not help me lose weight after. Technically, I was still working. I didn't have much of a maternity leave, which didn't help. And so I did the traditional way, believe it or not, for all of you know, I say this all the time. I prescribe GLP-1s every single day. I would have taken a GLP-1 if it existed when I needed it the most. But fast forward today, the cool part is I will never take a GLP-1 because I don't need it because I'm here to also like prove to you, with or without, it's possible, but we just got to fix some things, you know.
Well,
So
I guess, I mean, you're a good example of the story, right? Because it sounds like you went on them and now you're no longer on them and you're maintaining your weight loss. Is that
no,
fair?
GLP-1s didn't exist 10 years ago,
Okay.
and I would have at a moment's notice, you know, got on it because it's exactly what I needed metabolically, but I did it, the traditional way. Congratulations. Now you get to cut calories and exercise. Oh, by the way, we're actually going to tear your ACL while you're trying to exercise, taking care of your daughter. And then I had 6 months of weekly physical therapy and 10 months to finally walk again. So I've been through the trenches, but again, I'm just here. The cool part about it is that, probably over the last 2 to 3 years is really where I bumped up my game. And what I mean by that is I just felt like I owe it to particularly my female patients. I want to be congruent with what I teach. So sure, before I was healthy, but I wasn't like super, healthy. I was borderline skinny fat. I'll admit that, where it was just like eating, but it wasn't hardcore or anything like that. But I think I recognized once I hit, 45, we're not messing around. 46 wasn't too bad. 47, who are you? Kind of thing. But it just motivated me like, okay, I'm really going to show what's possible. And honestly, that really is my joy. And that's probably why I continue my healthy habits because I actually feel congruent with what I'm teaching now.
So tell us a little of what are the lessons that you're teaching? You know, they've come to you, the labs tell you a story, and they need a reset, right? Not even just for their weight, but emotionally. Um, what does that look like when working with you? And I know it's going to be different for everyone, but I guess generally speaking, what do you commonly see?
Yeah, well, let's just sort of talk about like a typical session with me. So, it's the traditional, Dr. Tran, I've been getting into my protein. I'm exercising 3 to 4 times a week. I'm kind of hungry, but, figuring out, I do have my stressors or whatnot. But I'm so frustrated right now. What's wrong with me? Kind of scenario. And So we take one step back and say, you know what, there's nothing wrong with you, but where are you judging yourself? And I'll just take a long pause. It can be a long pause, and then it hits the patient right from the start. Wow. So then they get into like, well, I feel like I'm failing at a mom. I totally forgot to, pick her up the other day and she was so mad at me. Or I didn't get to the grocery store in time, so now I have to order out for everybody. Or my boss, who already puts a lot on my plate, put another thing on my plate, but I still feel inadequate. These are the
Yeah.
stories that we really take a deep dive on. The reality is again, we're addressing the weight of what you're really carrying first. The medical stuff is easy. I do that boom, 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 kickoff call, look at your labs, fix that. But the real work begins is, okay, let's identify where you're judging yourself.
So is there therapy that's also in, or do you recommend that to your clients usually, or how does that?
Very
Because it
good
sounds
question.
like you're kind of, I mean, you're doing, you're addressing the physical and the emotional, and I think most people aren't accustomed to a doctor doing that.
You are right. This is truly based on experience. You are definitely not going to go make your annual routine and talk with, most of the doctors about the topics that we talk about. Majority of the females that I work with already have therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists. I'm not in that realm. I'm here to present as for a lack of a better phrase, a mirror. I'm here to present awareness. And again, this is again not taught in medical school and not even taught in training. This is literally you are tapping into the over 10 years of working with women with similar patterns over and over. And I got to one day, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, I started to see patterns and similarities. And it's really hard to explain. And you're right. When people look at my website, it's like just a traditional doctor who's going to prescribe medications. But nope, I'm going to dissect your brain and get into your mind like nobody else ever has. But that's the real work. And people really almost sort of pleasantly surprised once we get into it. But I'm just here to bring awareness and consciousness. That's kind of this new movement that we're seeing, is consciousness. What are you aware of? Again, the example of the judgment. And I'm just really good at helping people come to the solution. I am not the solution creator. I am the facilitator. And I think that's just part of the magic of what I do and the success stories that I've had with patients that have lost a lot of weight. Again, it's not the pure simplicity of the diet and exercise. They're a whole new person by the time they're done with me.
How many sessions do you do? Because I imagine 1 hour, that's okay. One
Yeah,
hour session is not gonna,
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't, or maybe you can. Maybe you're
Yeah,
that,
it's
maybe you're
dependent.
that good. That,
Yes, yes. It's very dependent. Everybody
sure.
has like different life paths and stories and things like that. So, I have been experienced that I can connect with people quite quickly. It's almost borderline tarot card reading, not gonna lie. I can read you like a book, just because I've just been doing it for so long, and I'm proud of that. But again, depending on sort of the situation, life stage, and things like that, then we rework it. But the awareness comes quickly, honestly. And call it if you will. I'm still trying to, figure out, okay, how do I name this? Because it's difficult, but it truly is a talent. I'm just like that kid who just um, was able to connect with all different walks of life. And it's quite astonishing that I can get along with people who are quite very different. And it might be just partly my mom. My mom is typically the mom that can make a best friend on an airplane. So she
Uh,
probably,
we all have
combines.
folks like that. Yeah.
The funny thing is she's an extrovert, and I think people are surprised that I'm actually more of an introvert kind of person. But I love the one-on-one because it truly is this just sort of this energetic connection. And then all of a sudden I almost sort of kind of like, aha, I see it. And then I'm just here to sort of again translate more than just blood work, because I have a message and I can just help people scoot along much faster to where they want to be.
So what's after that step, right?
Yeah.
If they, or is that you're not only mirroring them, you're diagnosing them, and then you're also making recommendations. What
Yeah.
are sort of tried and true recommendations
Yeah.
that you have found working? I mean, obviously, we've heard intermittent fasting, don't eat for
Yeah.
breakfast, and now we're hearing you should definitely eat for breakfast, or like eat a lot, eat
Mhm.
30 grams of protein, eat creatine. And so
Yeah.
it's very confusing if there's a right way, or is that based off our blood type? Well, I
Mhm.
don't know.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. No, big picture.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I actually have a program. It's called the Four Phases. Not everybody has to sign up for all four phases, but just sort of break it up. Okay. So phase one is simplicity of weight loss phase. You are right. We are literally only focusing on the 101. What to eat, what to exercise, what is insulin, what is protein, what does all of this mean to your body? And you start to kind of get going on your weight loss, the very foundational basics. Okay. Phase two is maintenance. Okay. Congratulations. You are like losing weight. You're maybe 10, 15 pounds away of your goal. Now it's just practice. Okay. What did I do to get here? And what do I need to practice to get here? And then the third phase is the shift phase. Okay, this is the fun part. Now that you've understood your exercise, your diet, the traditional things, the shift phase is like, okay, let's really address what is the problem that has nothing to do with diet and exercise. So again, your job challenges, family responsibilities. Are you taking care of aging parents or children who require more care because they have medical concerns? Kids in college, all of these things that, believe it or not, really like to kind of disrupt you. And that's really where we really slow down because I think that's probably one of the lengthiest phases. And then just to let you know, the last phase is the most important phase of all, is the habit phase. Okay. And when I say the habit phase, it's like, how do we get you to the point where you don't even have to think about it anymore? Where you are actually being that person where like, oh, today is Thursday. Of course I exercise. That just is just natural, like, brushing my teeth, kind of thing. And we always go to this restaurant and I always order this because that's just the naturalness. And so big pictures is an evolution, for sure. And it is complex. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of people are still always stuck in, phase one until they meet me. But and some people do it in a certain time frame. Some people will take years. But again, it really is just a self-evolution, and I'm just here for the ride. But it's just really cool to see that we actually do leap people into the next phase, and you can feel it because that is where the true transformation lies.
Where does the GLP-1 kind of fit into those four different phases?
Yeah, yeah. So usually right from the very beginning, I always tell patients, look, GLP-1s are an option, always. You're absolutely perfectly capable of losing weight without it in a different way, but we talk about obviously review lab work, again, your age, your genetics, the medications, all the chemistry. Okay. And so I facilitate GLP-1s again will control your appetite, number one, which is really one of the biggest reliefs. Honestly, people really almost upfront realize, wow, it takes away what we call the food noise out. You know who you are. You ate lunch and you're like, why am I hungry? I ate 30 minutes ago. And
Well, I
goodness
think
gracious,
about what I'm going to eat
yes,
next. I'm like, okay, well,
yes,
what's for dinner?
yes. I know. And then I cannot not eat before bed. I just, those kind of feelings. And the magicalness of the GLP-1s, it doesn't just, work in your gut to help you lose weight. It actually has effect on your brain receptors to help what we call sort of take away the obsession, the thinking about food. That's the freedom that people, I think, don't realize. They just think, oh, I'm just going to eat less because it helps me control my
Feel
appetite.
full,
No, it
right?
actually helps you stay in control of food, just the cool part. So, and then because it works on insulin for those who actually crave sweets, more commonly. I have a classic patient who literally could not break her habit of eating something sweet before bedtime. She just thought this just my my lack of willpower or weakness. I just never got into it. And I tell you, within a week, she's like, I don't even know who I am anymore. Like it literally could be National Donut Day, and I couldn't even like try to have a bite if I wanted to. This is the magic of the chemistry that it does. Now, obviously, step two, it increases your metabolism. Again, 40s, hello. I always tell my female patients, look, you're trying to boil water when your stove won't turn on.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody feels like everybody raise your hand right now. You are trying to boil water when your stove won't turn on. Okay, so GLP-1s chemically in the right way will help you increase your metabolism because as we know, as females, again, maybe we just don't exercise as much. We're losing muscle. Again, we're dealing with perimenopause, menopause, a lot of things that are affecting our metabolism, right? And so we're practically swimming upstream at this point. But GLP-1s really kind of put that back in order. Okay. And then last but not least, I always just say, like, again, please know that GLP-1s are not the sole answer. They're just training wheels. Okay. So you got to still ride the bike, aka you still need to figure out the diet and exercise. But here's the cool part. I really want to share a session that I had with a patient yesterday. She said the GLP-1s just help me just look at myself in the mirror differently. And she just said, I just can't even explain it to you. It's like I've never been okay looking in the mirror until now. And I was like, wow, something about that, you know. And then again, that's where the faces come in. So again, we're not just, fixing, the food and exercise, we're fixing the self-perception. So you guys really need to understand that GLP-1s are life-changing. Yes, it has side effects. Yes, it's an advanced medication. And yes, it's expensive. It stinks. Insurance doesn't cover it, but there are means to get access to it in affordable ways. But the number one important thing about GLP-1s, you just need someone who has experience to help you navigate from A to Z. That's really the point about these GLP-1s.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's when we have friends, or, I'll take myself, for example, right? I'm almost 50. I work out 5, 6 days a week. I understand sugars, A1Cs, blood sugars, and how they affect the body. Um, I eat fairly clean. Uh, and, it's like what you said, the weight just keeps going on and on. Am I obese? No. Should I consider GLP-1s? I think there's a lot of people in that, for people who definitely, type 2 diabetic or borderline, where this could really change their life and make them healthier. Um, I think folks who are in my bucket where it's like, are we just being vain, right? And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, right? I definitely know where I feel better, right? When
Mhm.
your clothes feel better. And I'm also short, so these 15 pounds really like
Yeah.
make a huge difference. I
Yeah.
have done, everything that they've said, the creatine, the weighted vest,
Mhm.
the weightlifting, the hot girl walks. It is kind of when's it time, right?
Yes.
And is it okay?
Yes.
And, what will I ever be able to go off of them, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
are these risks worth, I mean, looking better, which I think does translate into feeling better. But again, it's that, sort of am I being too vain? Am I
Mm-hmm.
being silly? Am I going to
Mm-hmm.
make my health suffer in a different way while being really skinny? Am I going to have
Yes,
Ozempic face or
yes,
right
yes.
or Ozempic butt, whatever things that I'm reading about, right?
Yes, yes.
There's all these questions that we're not really sure what to believe or what to know.
Yeah, and these are all valid questions that I get all the time, which is amazing. And these are the conversations that I have over consultations and things like that so that you get the full picture. So I've
Yeah.
got a couple of things to say about that. At the time of this recording, it's great. Serena Williams made the news
Oh,
that
I
she
saw that today.
yes,
Yeah.
that she used GLP-1 to lose weight. But here's the real message that people are missing. Okay. Sure, she sponsored, a company that did it and she's losing weight and getting healthy. Nobody ever addressed that. The reason why she is of value is because she's making it feel normal and okay to use it. That was the message that people need to get away from Serena Williams. Oh, this cool celebrity, how could she, just come out and all that stuff, type of thing. We just need to normalize it, that it is a medical treatment legitimately to help, number one. Okay. Number two, one of the biggest things that people, will say is like, well, I don't want people to feel like I took a GLP-1 to cheat my way
Yeah. I
to
took the
get it.
easy way out.
Yes, yes. Here's my answer to that. Go ahead and pick up the phone and call your girlfriend who took fertility treatment to get pregnant and tell her that she cheated to become pregnant. Same scenario. These are legitimate physiological treatments to fix something that you yourself said, I'm exercising, I'm eating right, what gives? Okay, and the third piece, ding, ding, ding. Where are you judging yourself?
Oh, do
Go
you have
ahead.
another hour? Yeah. We might have to, yeah, schedule something else. Yeah, I might be in, what was it, phase three for years. Yeah, I'm not sure you have enough time.
Yes, yes.
But it is, right? It is. And I feel like I'm definitely not alone, right? Or you
Yeah.
have friends who are all of a sudden thinner than they have been in the
Yes.
15, 20 years I've known them.
Yes.
But it's like nobody talks about it because, I mean, I know that it's nobody's business, but it also is very striking where you're like, well, what if they're sick, right? Like,
Hmm.
and it's so, I think women feel embarrassed.
Yeah, yeah, yep. And I always say, the most dangerous side effect of GLP-1s is working with a doctor who doesn't know what they're doing. That's it. I'm sorry.
But how do we know if they know what they're doing? You
Very
know,
good
right? I mean,
question.
obviously,
Yes. Okay, so
yeah.
let me give you some clues. It's not easy. Okay. When you go to the doctor's office and then you say you want to lose weight, they'll say, okay, here's a prescription. Red flag. Okay. Second red flag. Okay, I want to lose weight. Here's a prescription. Um, Figure out the diet and exercise piece. I'll see you next month, kind of thing. Here's another red flag. Why would you even want to do those injections? You need to just figure it out and exercise. Work
Or just
harder.
be happy. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
older.
or be
That
happy. Oh
give
yes,
it, yeah, be
oh,
done with
oh,
it. Yeah.
yes.
No,
I
it's
love
true.
it.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I've definitely heard that, right? Where it's like,
And we're female.
why? I mean, you're almost 50. Like,
Females,
what do you
yes.
care? Yeah.
Female
Give
doctors tell
up.
me that.
Just give up.
Oh my gosh. Please don't fire me up here. But it's usually the females. So here's something, I want to say this in a nice way, and this is not just health. If you want a result, and it's just professional or personal or whatnot, hang out with people who have your result. Okay? Not to discredit, I don't believe that cardiologists have to have a heart attack to help people, but guess who, how powerful a cardiologist is who actually, you know, experienced a heart attack kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we want to start thinking about Just, okay, again, the congruency is sort of kind of like, gosh, I don't feel right if I'm not doing what I'm teaching, kind of thing. So, and in your money world, don't want to hang out with poor people. Plain and simple. But you know what? Guess what? We laugh because our girlfriends are complaining about, like, toilet paper costs too much now, and now I have to, like, own, three apps and watch, all my favorite TV shows. Or are you talking to people who say, yeah, yeah, I'm about to invest in this, and I have a portfolio, and I hired Betty, who, like, legit, gave me this X% return. Guess what? That's who you hang out with. But you are absolutely right. It is really tough. Very, very tough. Another giveaway is I want to shout out to all of my colleagues who actually have the board certification. I truly full-heartedly
Which one are
believe
they looking?
the
Which one are we looking for?
obesity
Okay.
medicine one specifically. Believe it or not, no, endocrinologists actually don't fall into the category because it's still big overarching. But if you have someone who full on, there's actually a handful of obesity medicine certified doctors here in Colorado now. So cool, kind of thing. So that usually sort of kind of the stamp of approval kind of thing. And then I'm a freak of nature. I enjoy teaching, so I am active on social media. Sometimes, yeah, you're right. Social media is always sort of kind of different persona or whatnot, but just follow them and just see, are they educational? Do you really think? But at the end of the day, I always tell people there's definitely a lack of trust factor in this whole weight loss industry, 100%. The only person that you should trust is yourself. So that's where you fine tune, do your research. How do you normally make decisions? Some people prey on it. Some people just have a gut feeling. Some people will look you up under the sun and make sure you did not end up in jail back in, 1980, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
You just trust what you do to make a decision. But at the end of the day, you are the one that makes the result. And you just want to feel good about the person that is leading you. And that's how you get the result. Okay. But yes, I do have sympathy for everyone out there because it is wild out there on, who to go to for sure.
Well, I mean, I just had a meeting with a potential client this morning, and I told her the same thing, right? It's listen to your spidey senses. In the
Yes.
end, all of us are gotten to this place because we've had some knocks,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard because there's no checklist, right?
Yes.
It's a lot of what does your gut say, and if you're how and listen to that, right?
Yep, for sure.
What are the percentage of your clients that eventually go off GLP-1s? Like once you start, are you on them forever?
Very good question. I have different scenarios. So I have people who, like, congratulations, you made it, all the way to your goal weight, and they literally abruptly stop. And that's actually not very harmful, but they're like, I'm done, see you later. Awesome. Okay. Then I have some people who have struggled with weight. Usually they'll say, since I was born, kind of a thing. So I say, well, I can't fix you overnight. So please know that it's going to be drawn out. Some people are on it for several months. Some people are on it for year after year kind of thing. Then I have the middle group of people who say, this is great. I got to my weight. I'm exercising. It's fall. I really have a good grasp. And then they're off. And then it's sort of like the baby steps. They learn to go from crawling to walking. And they're like, oops, November hits. I have the holidays. My in-laws are coming. It's going to be nuts. It's like potluck at my office every single day. And so they will restart, which is totally okay also. So I just really sort of like individualize, um, again, the four phases, but weight is also very seasonal. You just know that your weight fluctuates in different patterns from fall, winter, spring, summer, kind of thing.
And does that affect your, are you messing with your metabolism? Is it going to mess it up forever?
Again, the typical is fall. Everybody's on point. Kids are back in school. Awesome. My structure, I've got things going. Then around about the holidays, oh my goodness, it's getting cold. I don't want to exercise. I want to eat a lot of soup and comfort food, so it's a little bit tricky. Then congratulations, it's January. Awesome. I joined the gym, New Year's resolution. Everybody's just kind of back on point in spring. Oh my goodness, weather is warmer, so people are really nice and steady. And then summer, yep, forget it.
Yeah.
My circle's off, kids are
Ha-
off,
Happy
vacation,
hour. Okay.
social
Yeah.
events. So, and everybody has like their different, again, seasonal patterns, within. But again, that's sort of kind of the four phases, right? It's not just the phases of the weight loss journey, but again, what does life like to throw at you at certain times? But again, back to sort of the work that I do, it's just an awareness. So you almost sort of like, wow, I do know myself well that every time, holidays come around, my crazy, hungry Asian family, comes in and, I have to be on alert more, versus, when they're away in other states and I'm good to go, kind of thing.
Is there anything else that, we should know about or that you want to share that I haven't asked, prodded you about?
Yeah, I think my parting words is let's let's stop blaming ourselves for a problem that actually is rooted medically. And there's a big to it, but if I could encourage the listener, today is the day that I no longer blame myself for this problem, and I'm
Hmm.
going to get help. And there's hope, and it doesn't matter if you are 27, 37, 47, 57, or even 67. There's just different stages of life, but I wholeheartedly believe that it's possible, and I'm living it. And check back with me when I turn 50. That's all I have to say.
Yes, I have that. That's coming up for me. So I think things are going to fall off a cliff after that. And then I guess I didn't touch on this because I think, as you've mentioned, cost can be an issue. Does insurance or at your at your office, is that accepted or do you have to be a certain BMI or how does that work? Um, obviously there's self-pay, but I think that would be pretty scary to some people as
Oh,
well.
yeah. For the most part, historically, from just generic weight loss services and nutrition and things like that, insurances are some covered, some don't, but it's not great.
Yeah.
Okay. We definitely work with insurances when it comes to the medication piece, especially now that we have the weight loss injections. However, these injections are again quite expensive. Every day there's always a change in the insurance decides we are no longer covering these medications. So it can be very challenging and stressful. The great news is out-of-pocket prices are starting to come down. The various companies that make the weight loss injections now have savings, programs, for patients. So there's a lot of affordability. We just launched a national platform. We partner with providers across. So if you live outside of Colorado, we still can give you, access to GLP-1s. If you are in Colorado, work directly with me, kind of thing. At the end of the day, we understand finances is an issue, but at the end of the day, what is it really costing you? It's not the program, the injection is costing you your happiness and put a price on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's hard to, right?
Yep,
There is no price on that.
yep, yep.
Well, I have more questions, but I will leave. I think that's a great place to sort of end our, that part of the conversation. As part of the podcast, I always have these closing questions for my guests, and that is, how do you personally maintain your balance and peace? As we've talked about, you are a professional, obviously working a lot, and you have a daughter that you
Yes.
don't want to be stuck on I-25 traffic at 8:30, wondering how you're going to get home to her. What do you do for yourself? It
Yes,
sounds like exercise, of
yes,
course, but
yes. Everybody's gonna laugh. I am a professional napper. Why?
I don't think that's true. I love napping.
I decided that I live in a different time than everybody else. And what I mean by that is like if I'm up at 2, a.m., I'm going to get up and do stuff. I don't, and then I'm going to go back to sleep. I eat dinner at 4:30 because that's when my daughter gets home from school. I nap at 6 o'clock. I work out at 5, but I just live on my own timeline because I don't define anything. Um, I am spiritual. A lot of like inner work, and like gosh, I just continue to remind myself why am I even here on a bigger level. I think that's just really important. And I have just the most amazing family, best friend support to keep me sane when I feel like my head's cut off, kind of thing. So it's not easy, but I find my inner drive, and everybody's definition is different.
Yeah.
So, but I do have done a lot of work to just know that I believe in a lot more higher level things that I ever had compared to when I was younger. And then you just wake up and it's like, cool, what's gonna happen today? That feels like a gift.
I think that's lovely, right? I talk about it in my work with retirement folks. All the studies show it's purpose, community,
Yep.
and the bigger, the greater good that
Yeah.
really matters in having a happy, successful retirement.
Yes.
Do you have any, I mean, do you consider napping your hobby? Or do you have
Oh
other
my
things you
gosh.
like to do?
I love to swim.
Yeah.
Kickboxing is my therapist for life. Something about punching the
Yeah.
bag will always be my joy. My daughter,
I feel like that's the best sentence ever.
it
Punching
is.
something will always be my joy.
Love it. I love it, love it. Spending time with my daughter, obviously.
Yeah.
She looks like me.
She's at a
like, oh
great
my gosh.
age too.
Yeah. Yeah, you just have to find your joy, and
Yeah.
you just live on that. At the end of the day, again, life is beyond, the 9 to 5 grind. So, uh, we assume that we have tomorrow, and that's the mistake. So we just start thinking about, okay, cool. What am I doing here day to day?
Yeah. Yeah. What's the best way for people to find you? Now you're saying that it doesn't matter if they're in Colorado or not, so that's
Yeah,
also good for
yeah. Well,
people to know. But
I like to live on Instagram.
okay.
At MedFit Dr. Tran is my handle. That's where I have fun. You'll
You
really
do.
see the
I follow you.
evolution.
It's fun. Yeah.
I mean, I'm goofy. I'm a nerd. I'll be honest with you. I try those viral things that just makes me feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so like nerdy, but I'm game, kind of.
Yeah, it's fun.
But I keep it real. Like I said, all my conversations with my patients are like girlfriend to girlfriend. I'm
Yeah.
kind of like a small barking dog. I'm just gonna tell you what it like it is, but I'm also gonna love you unconditionally,
Yeah.
and bark at big dogs just because I can, you know. So,
Well,
but yeah,
thank
I would
you.
message me. Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a joy. Hope everybody got a lot out of it because that's just what I do and I love it.